I feel with improv, like you said, like with improv, things will come out. You're far more alive. It's the closest to the final thing you could get, strangely, with improv.
Yeah,
If
the
you're
words will be different, but the vibe's right. Yeah,
yeah, the vibe
I'm
is right.
taking notes. I'm stealing that. That's a great idea.
This is an audience of your fellow SAG actors. And so I actually always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card? And I know this might be different for Jonathan and Jack, because you might have been working for a while before you did something in America. But let's start with Jonathan.
I think my first American film was Something Wicked This Way Comes
My
in,
traumatizing film.
yeah, 80, 81, 82. Yeah.
That was your first American film. Did you realize that you were going to be haunting children's nightmares for years?
I didn't, and also sadly that film didn't get a proper release, like a lot of films I do. Disney was going through a state of flux at the time. They didn't have a proper head of production, a head of studio, and they held up the release for quite a long time while they changed the nature of the film. They'd hired Jack Lowden in order to just tell the story of Something Wicked This Way Comes. And then they decided they wanted a special effects movie. So they held it up for a couple of years, I think, while they put the odd special effect in.
Wow, I had no idea.
I,
Jack,
I can offer one thing. Sorry to interrupt, but
please.
you should feel great comfort in that right around that time is when everybody started getting HBO in the suburbs. And I think they just dumped it on HBO and it ran like 5 times a week. So I
Mhm.
probably saw that movie 15 times. So it had its own version of a wide release, just in a strange way.
Oh, great. That's good to hear. Yeah. I'll,
In my
I'll
memory,
stop looking for the checks, though, shall I?
Yeah. Good luck.
Jack, what about for you?
I don't I think I only got mine last year, the end of last year or the beginning of this year. I've really barely done anything in America. I did Dunkirk, but Dunkirk wasn't really, I don't know what it was. Apparently, I mean, we shot some stuff in California, like on a cliff that was supposed to be me in the air in a plane, but it was off a cliff somewhere in California. Um, but then I've done a Jim Brooks movie this year, so I had to get one. Otherwise, I don't know how it works. Probably just got in trouble now.
That's so cool. I could just talk to you for the next 45 minutes about the Jim Brooks movie if nobody minds.
No, no.
Mark, for you?
Yeah, mine was a little later as well because I came up making, $3 movies in my kitchen with my brother, and those were like our little Sundance movies, and that continued for quite a while. So we were doing, just movies with our friends. None of us were in any unions, through the Puffy Chair, through Hump Day that I made with Lynn Shelton, and then I got The League, which was my first TV show, but that was an AFTRA show when they were split, so I didn't get it then. And then I think there was a small movie I did with filmmaker Craig Johnson called True Adolescence, that I think they were tired of Taft-Hartleying me, and I think that's when I finally got my card.
Oh, I always assumed you gave it to yourself in one of your own movies.
Yeah. I think I didn't know what I was doing back then. Like I didn't know any of those rules. I'm still figuring them out.
Billy, for you?
Um, I think I got my SAG card either on a movie I was fired from, or Sleepers, which was a Barry Levinson movie.
Okay, but now I want to hear about the movie you were fired from because I think that's a rite of passage for everyone.
Well, it was my first big job. I only had 4 days on it, and I had 2 days of work. It was just sort of melodramatic work, and then I had a 2-week drop, and then I was supposed to fly back for 2 more days. And during the break, I was living with my older brother, and he said, Your director called. She wanted to talk to you." And I said, "Well, that's funny. She didn't talk to me much while I was on set. She's probably firing me." And it turns out that was the case. They were like, "We won't be needing you for the return." But the great thing, I must have gotten my card then because I started getting residuals from a movie I was fired from. So like every once in a while I'd get $1.07, and I was like, hell yeah, I like this union. This is working out well.
So this is good. Jonathan does an entire movie. It doesn't come out. He gets nothing. You get fired for 2 days' work, and you start making the money.
For 2 days of what must have been horrendous acting work. I mean, to go through the trouble to fire me from that part, it was such a small part. It must have been like really, really over the top, which is not a mystery. I make some bad choices sometimes.
I love this because I think all actors can relate on any level. You're never really safe from being let go or replaced.
Nope.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jenelle. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I guess that concludes the talk.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to unlock a new fear for all of you, but but again, you're all nominated for great performances on some of my favorite shows. And you've all been playing these parts for more than one season. I'd love to go back and ask sort of about what initially drew you to the role and how it's changed and how the challenges your characters have gone through that you've really enjoyed playing. Billy and Mark, you've been doing these roles for 3 seasons now, and they have literally been through so much. Did you ever, predict? I know that like you had major plot changes just because of the nature of the world. Are you surprised to see where your characters are now?
Totally. I'm surprised to be here now. This was the first time that I had a chance to do a second season of something. And so I imagined that would be the end of it, really. And so to then first of all, the show is trying to address every possible issue that's happening in the world. So needless to say, the characters in that space are going to go through all the various things that we particularly, obviously as Americans in the pop news media have gone through over the last 4 years, which is a lot. It's a lot. And so they spare none of the characters, any of the twists and turns. So yeah, I've been shocked to be a part of it and shocked to play a character. It has been amazing to be back with some of the same crew. That I haven't had that experience before, we've been doing it for 4 years, even though it's only been 3 seasons.
Yeah, and then you get baby pictures and all that stuff coming back. It's really cool. Yeah,
Totally.
It's a wild thing. Yeah, I mean, my experience was similar. I think that what drew me to the project, it was definitely not a thing where I was like, well, there's 4 or 5 different globally enormous television shows that are calling me right now. So which one will I pick? They showed interest in me, and and it was going to be this incredible cast. And so that was sort of a no-brainer to jump in. I think that what's been surprising and what's been fun for me is, even though it's a monster, it's so many producers, it's one of Apple's flagship shows. You can feel the pressure to do things right. And the little things that I make at Duplass Brothers are not that way. Yet somehow they've remained some creative elasticity inside of the monstrous machine. I think, for instance, the relationship between Chip and Alex, between my character and Jen Aniston's character, I don't think it was supposed to be what it ended up becoming, but they saw something interesting in the chemistry that they liked, and they sort of pushed it and built upon that. I mean, Billy would never tell you this, but like, he was also supposed to be just one of the ensemble, and there was an electricity about him, and they just started building things for him and increasing it. So that's been really fun to watch. It's like how a behemoth can actually like move and shake and follow the creative, because I've never been a part of that before.
I could be wrong, but Billy, when the show started, it felt like Corey was a little more morally gray, or like, I don't want to say he was our villain, but I don't think we were supposed to like him quite as much as we did. Were you sort of surprised people responded to him so warmly?
I'm shocked when anybody likes anything that I'm in, for sure. Yeah. It's, I can't tell you how many times during whatever project I'm working on, a play or a movie or a TV show, where I'm literally trying to interpret exactly what I believe the text is saying, and the director or the writer will come up and go, "Wow, what a bizarre choice." And I go, "No, I was just trying to do what, is that not what you meant?" I get clearly My brain does not process things in a reliable way. In any case, it's not by me going, I've got a creative idea here that I know will be subversive and attract viewers. That is not the swing thought. It's like, let me survive and please don't fire me. Again, like I was for my first job.
And Jonathan, in addition to capturing real world events, you have the additional challenge of playing a very real, very iconic person in Prince Philip. How much do you see this, as a performance? How much do you see it as you're bound to autobiography? Because I know they've been very clear that The Crown is not a documentary.
Yeah, no, it's not a documentary, and it's not an impersonation, and it's a version of Philip. I started off at the beginning of that series when it was shown that there was no way I was going to watch a program about the royal family. I'm not a royalist. I'm a monarchist. I see myself as a Republican, and anyway, we thought let's give it at least 20 minutes, and we watched the whole of that episode, and then we started binge watching it, and it turned out to be an extraordinary series. So I kept my eye on it over the seasons and the years, thinking, well, there's got to be something I can do. What the hell? What is it? And I kept getting older. The characters kept getting older, and then Peter Morgan asked me to play Philip, and I'd had the experience. I think I was playing Pope Francis, so I wasn't daunted by the idea of representing a real figure. And in fact, playing him and playing within the constrictions of that character, I found it, instead of, I thought I might be stifled by it, but I was actually quite released by it. There was an ease to how I approached the work, because whatever I did had to be right. And Peter Morgan said it's right, so it's going to be right. I spent a bit of time, like we all do on the show. There's a huge research department, so that they send you loads of stuff. And I'd grown up. I was 6 when Elizabeth was crowned, and we were the first to have a television in our street. And it was 3 days after my 6th birthday, and I'd been given a toy cannon. And we watched the coronation on television. I lay on my stomach shooting matchsticks at the Queen and Prince Philip as they passed. So even then I was not respectful. But as I say, I'd grown up with him all my life, but I'd not known much about him, like most of the royal family. They don't speak very often, apart from the Queen's address every now and then. They don't speak in public very often. And so I spent a lot of time looking at videos and things to get the nature of how he talked and how he walked. What he said was a given. And I actually had a wonderful time doing it. Yeah, a lot of fun.
I'm curious, because I just think as actors, when you're watching a show and you kind of mentioned, you were like, oh, there's a lot of British people on here. Maybe they'll get to me. But you never imagined it would be Prince Philip. Did that surprise you when he came at you with that offer?
I knew it wasn't going to be the Queen, but
you never know.
he was the only one left. No, I wasn't that surprised. I was very taken with the idea, and meeting Peter. Actually, before I said yes, it was great to talk to him and how he saw the character developing and how it would grow. And one of the first things he told me was that he was about to reveal through Philip this enormous secret about the fact that Philip had a female friend, and this was going to be the storyline in my first series. And I left his house thinking, do I want to be the guy who's going to upset the entire British population by telling them that Philip had let's call it a female friend? And then I went to France on holiday, and I thought I'll Google Philip and Penny, her name. And on French Google, It's page after page after page of stories about Philip and Penny. There's nothing in the British press.
Wow.
And it's very, hi, Jack. Yeah, Jack, you're my grandson. You never call.
Wait, I didn't know.
You never call. No,
I couldn't.
I'm talking.
Are you talking? Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, I couldn't remember
It's just
I couldn't remember which one you were nominated for. I thought you were going to talk about Slow Horses, and then I forgot. You're nominated for two. You're nominated for
yes, multi-hyphenate. Yeah, I'm talking about The Crown, Jack. So I won't be talking about you and what a wonderful actor you are to work with. I won't be saying any of that.
What a waste.
I know. There'll be other times. Don't worry. You'll get nominated again. Anyway, so I got enormous confidence in the fact that the rest of the world knew about it, but it was suppressed in Britain. And I got to work with Natasha McElhone, who I'd made Ronin with years before, so that was nice.
Oh, wow. And Jack, I was just looking back because your character on Slow Horses has literally been through so much physically and emotionally as an intelligence agent. And I know that, these are based on books. At the same time, were you really prepared for everything this character was going to entail?
No, not really. No, he does run a lot, and they do like to they beat the crap out of him a lot. I very rarely. We've shot now for about 4 years, just like the guys on the morning show, and there's rarely been an evening where I've not gone into the makeup truck to get some kind of bruise or cut or something off my face, or found bits of it on a pillow. So he does get shit kicked out of him quite a lot. It's quite fun, which is always a nice place to work from. I think it makes you you don't have to act as much because there's sort of 20% of it's on your face already. And then you can add another sort of 25% when you run, because you can't really pretend to run. So that, you either run or you don't. So all that's left really is for your character to be asleep, and then there's very little sort of acting required. But no, it's quite remarkable, the sort of progression of calamities that Mick Herron through the novels came up with, yet they're sort of still marginally believable, which is why the show works so well. It's sort of, he famously describes it as a sort of workplace drama, and he knew he wanted to write a sort of black comedy workplace sort of drama, and he had the two options were the police and the secret services. And the reason that he chose the secret services is because everybody knows what goes on in the police. Nobody knows what goes on in the secret services. So it was a sort of from a place of laziness. Mick wrote about the secret service because he could just make it up. He didn't have to really research anything. But I think that's a big cover story, and I think Mick used to work in the secret services. I hope he did, and so everything that we do actually does happen. But
you just outed him.
Yeah, I hope so.
I just want to say it's an incredible show, and you guys are phenomenal in it. I love that show. I was working recently in London, and I just kept watching it. A rerun. I would watch there's 3 seasons, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I get to the end of the thirds where you are beat to shit that almost entire season and running. So apparently I'm hearing now very little acting work there, but that's not the way that I received it in watching it. It was most excellent, but I love that show so much.
That's great. No, there is very little acting because the character that I play, which is why I fell in love with him. He's incredibly cynical and sarcastic. He wants to do well. He's very much on the side of the angels, but he also thinks he's above everybody, which is quite similar, I think, to a lot of the characters in the morning show. Is that I think a lot of people in the morning show characters, just like in Slow Horses, is that they all secretly believe that they're better than everybody else, or they could run the building or run the floor or whatever. So I like the fact that he's very, very earnest in many ways and wants to save the world, but he wants to be seen as the one that saves the world, so to speak.
Well,
That is-
also
that is
compared
interesting.
with the pedigree of this spy body that can run forever. You know, he's got an athletic pedigree in him, which makes him, of the slow horses, the ace in the hole that you need to pull off all that crazy shit.
Yeah,
That's such a fun point, Jack. You pointing out that the three of us share, you know, this inherent hubris, you know, in all these characters, and yet Jonathan, you know, is playing in the world of the royal family where it's just all
Right.
humility, really, all day long. So
yeah.
I actually, Jack, forgive me for not knowing. How did the role come to you? I don't know if you know, it was an audition process or if it was just an offer.
No, Christ, no, it wasn't an offer. You're joking. No, it was auditioning. It was like 2019. The scripts came to me through an agent, very, you know, really classic kind of way. And as soon as I read them, I knew I badly wanted to do it because the character shares my sensibility and inability to sort of take anything sort of too seriously. So I auditioned. I begged them to let me do it in my own accent. I said, just show, because they wanted me to do RP, sort of basic English. And I always feel that it sort of cuts the legs away a little bit of your creativity. I know I don't know if you guys are the same, but other actors, you know, love working in accent. It kind of gives them something else, but I hate it. So I begged, I did it in an English accent, and I didn't know if they wanted me or not. So I begged them, please let me do it in my own accent, because I'll be 20 times better and I'll be fantastic. And they thought I was better in the English accent. So it shows you what you know. Shows you what you know. But yeah, it was about 3 or 4 rounds, and I read with a bunch of people. So it was wonderful to get it. Yeah.
It may sound like an odd question, but was there ever a chemistry read of sorts with Gary Oldman? Because, you know, that dynamic is so vital to the show.
No, there wasn't, which is strange, which is a bit of a gamble, to be honest. The first day I met Gary properly, I actually met Gary years ago. Gary came to see a play that I did in London, and he came backstage, and he was very kind about what I did in the play. I think he actually he sort of out the corner of his eye, he was almost sort of slightly annoyed. He went, I was like 21 and it was a great part. It was a great role. And he sort of,
What would you play?
it was Ghosts, Ibsen's.
Oh, okay.
And I just died of a syphilitic stroke at the end of the play. And Gary was backstage, and he said, you're actually quite good, aren't you?" Like he'd been told I was shite. I don't know. It was quite interesting. But the first day I met Gary was when we did a read through, and all of the slow horses were there, and they were all incredibly nervous. And Gary did. We read a couple of scenes, and I don't know whether he did it on purpose or not, but either way, it's great. When we all went for a coffee, Gary was stood in the queue for the coffee, and Gary just sort of said to the nearest 2 or 3 slow horses, he said, "I'm not getting this at all. Christ, I'm not getting this. This isn't, I don't know what I'm doing." And we're all going, "What?" But he instantly relaxed all of these sort of younger, less experienced actors, because we're all like, well, if he's scared. So that was the first time I actually met him. Yeah.
Wow. Do you think he meant it, or was he just putting you all at ease?
I think that having worked with him now for years, he means it. He's so he's a perfectionist, and it's from that sort of stage background. He wants to keep making it better and better and better. So no,
I saw Jack in Ghosts at the same time as Gary Oldman did, and I was the one who told Gary you were shy, Jack.
Yeah. Knew it. Price again. Price.
Yeah.
You did audition, but I don't believe the rest of you did. Just sort of out of curiosity, because at least starting out, it is such a necessary process, even though it seems counterproductive at times. Do the rest of you do you miss auditioning? Are you grateful to not have to, do that step anymore? Or maybe you still do. I shouldn't assume.
I rarely audition now. They can watch films. But the thing I find difficult is when you talk to the director over the phone. You don't meet personally, you have a quick chat, and then you turn up on the set. And I did a film with George Clooney called Leatherheads. We hadn't met. We talked on the phone. I arrived in, where was it? Somewhere. Anyway, I arrived. And I'm walking towards him. And I swear he went, oh. And I carried that look for the entire film. He, oh, God. Oh, shit. I should have met him. I was terrible. And, Mark, you were talking about the character in your series whose part grew and grew and grew because they found him so interesting. Well, in Leatherheads, my part got smaller and smaller and smaller. I wasn't paranoid at all by the end of it. Terrible, terrible.
Mark, for you, you've been on both sides of the camera, obviously, auditioning and then auditioning other people. Do you think that gives you a special, empathy for actors when they come in?
It does give me a special empathy for actors. And I'm, this is not like false modesty. I'm just not good at auditioning. I don't know if I get nervous or I maybe try too hard and push a little bit because I'm worried it's not coming and I don't trust the subtleties, but I've gotten a lot of feedback like that. Well, he's actually really good, but he's not good in the room. He's bad at auditioning, So I made this decision early on, and my agents were like, "This is a terrible decision, Mark." But I was like, "Let's just tell people that Mark doesn't audition, okay? And try and do it in a way that doesn't sound like he's like an asshole who thinks he's above it, but just like he's got his writing, directing career, he's got young kids, it's just not something that he does." And what I have discovered is that I win way more roles out of them going through their whole process of auditions, not getting exactly what they want. And then in their imagination, they think, well, we didn't see Mark. Wonder what he did. It could have been great. So I think I win more than I lose by playing that card.
That's brilliant.
That's amazing.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been through all different phases of it, from the beginning of my career, auditioning for everything. And for some reason, I got the idea in my head that when I'm auditioning, it's actually my part for that period of time. So there's no win or lose. I just have to get really good at enjoying that moment and trying to play the part. And then it took all the pressure off me, ended up getting a lot of parts. Then I didn't have to audition for a while. And then I wasn't so good in the things I didn't have to audition for, I guess, or they didn't work. And I had to start auditioning again. I can remember when Alien, I can't remember the name of it, but I did an Alien movie. It'll come to me in a sec. Alien Covenant. And they wouldn't even send me the script. And I was like, well, am I going to have a meeting with Ridley? They're like, no, we'll send you dummy sides and you can put yourself on tape if you want. And I was like, all right. You got, and even morning show, they were like, we think you're too old. And my agent was like, well, if you want to get the part, buy a suit and fly out to LA and sell them, pitch them. So I stayed at my agent's house and drove around LA and pitched myself to the various people who. So there's no end to it. I mean, I suppose for some people, but it's a rare group of people who have ascended. I mean, Jonathan obviously has been producing significant work for decades. So were you to try to audition for him, I think you would probably not live very long. I
have been asked, but the thing that annoys me about present day auditions is what you mentioned, is the tape. Young actors are asked to put stuff on tape with no notes, no feedback. And I think it's, I can say this now because I don't care. It's lazy casting directors and lazy directors who won't get the people in to see them. They won't put themselves on the line. They assume the actor will, give all they've got. And then
I'm with you on that. I'm so with you. When my brother and I cast our HBO show Togetherness, Jay and I were both the showrunners, and we were writing and directing all the episodes, and we knew I was going to play the lead role. And we made a decision that everybody who came in the room, I would read with them so that we knew it was a chemistry read right off the bat. And we would do one read with the scenes, as it were, and then we would throw out the script and we would do an improvisation and see if there's any interesting chemistry that we hadn't yet written for that we could write for. And it was always out of those improvisations that we found the new thing that we hadn't thought of yet on the page, and we would sort of rebuild. And that's always been the best process for me on the other side for auditioning.
That's what I do. I with tapes, I hated doing tapes because, like Jonathan said, because you don't really get anything from anybody. They also send you, far too much stuff. So what I started to do was that I would improv something to camera, but as if the character was like sending a video message. Even if he was in in the 1700s or whatever, I would send a video message. I did one, I played a part of a guy, a criminal, a real life criminal. And I met the director and the writer on Zoom, and they were like, so the casting director's going to send you the sides. And as they were talking, I kind of like shut off listening to them because I was thinking about I got an idea in my head, and I literally said, okay, cheers. And I shut the laptop down and I lifted it back up and I pressed record. And I just did this sort of video message to the camera in the character as if he was sending a video message from prison to someone. I said, please just watch that, because I feel with improv, like you said, like with improv, things will come out. You're far more alive. It's the closest to the final thing you could get, strangely, with improv.
Yeah, the words will be different, but the vibe's right. Yeah,
the vibe.
I'm taking notes. I'm stealing that. That's a great idea.
So I put an improv at the beginning of every single tape I send. I put it before they see anything. That's what I stick at the top. And it does work most times ish.
I was curious, Jack, for your Slow Horses audition, was there any sort of like scene where you were running? Because that's pretty much the whole first episode. So how do they know you could pull it off?
No, they asked me to sit on the chair and pant, and then pant again, and then don't pant. No, there was no running audition. Again, that's bad auditioning. Yeah, because I did, though. I've said this before, but I did notice in the script, the writer very specifically used the word. He would always get to barriers, like ticket barriers in a subway station or something, and he'd always vault. Very specifically that. I was like, I'd never vaulted over a fence. I'm a kind of climb over it slowly kind of guy. So I did for one summer, was just whenever I saw a fence, I would vault over it, and it helped. It did help.
I don't think it's any coincidence that the three shows that are represented here have multiple nominations, especially for the casts. And I know we talked a little bit about Gary Oldman, but I'd love to know about working with your co-stars. I mean, Jack, in addition to Gary, you have Kristen Scott Thomas, and then you bring in people like Jonathan. Like, I have to imagine every other day it's like some amazing actor that you grew up watching. Does it ever get intimidating?
No, not because they're all so lovely. Like genuinely, they aren't, and I always, I might be wrong, but I think the stage element plays a huge part in that. All of these actors that come in that you've mentioned, like Jonathan, especially, has such an incredible stage pedigree, and I can smell a stage actor a sort of mile off. Is that there's a company feel and a givingness, and also a sort of. They don't really take themselves that seriously very quickly, and that's needed on a set like Slow Horses. And so particularly British stage actors seem to have that in common. And the great thing about Slow Horses, it's kind of like a top up every season we do. We get a different raft of brilliant actors come in, as well as people like Jonathan and Kristen and Gary and Saskia Reeves, and it's insane. But they all have brilliant stage pedigree, and I don't think that's a coincidence. But yeah, it's just geniuses everywhere on that show.
I don't mean to single anyone out, but I think I've seen you all on stage, except for maybe Mark. I don't know, because you started in movies. Have you ever done live theater?
No, I'm terrified of the stage. I have pretty extreme anxiety, and I used to play in bands, and I was in indie rock bands all through my 20s, and I have nightmares once every 5 to 6 days that I'm back on stage trying to play that show and I can't remember any of the words. So I am deeply terrified that I will get up there and forget. That's why I was just talking about my wife about this. I was like, my youngest is in 7th grade, and as soon as she kind of flies the coop, I was like, I have to go do a play. I have to face this fear at some point and figure this out. But I'm genuinely scared.
No, I don't blame. I just saw, well, like it feels like it was just, I saw Billy's play, which is a one-man show where he does like 17 characters. Like you can't blame anyone else if you forget your lines.
Well, and to Mark's point, during the first week of previews, I went up, and it's about an 80-minute show, and I went up about 3 minutes in, and I called for line, but we didn't have any system set in place for line because I'd never called for line before. So from the booth, I hear, and I was like, meh, fuck me. I guess I'm on my own. And the show came in under an hour because I cut about 20 minutes from it. And I came back afterwards, and the director, she was like, well, that happened. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go home now, cry a little bit. I get home. I'm talking to my girlfriend. She's like, I'm sure it wasn't that bad. And I was like, honey, I had a full-blown panic attack. I started to hyperventilate. I had tunnel vision, and like I'm feeling pretty stressed out about it. And she was like, yeah, but I'm sure nobody in the audience saw. And then we're at a dinner party about 3 years later, and one of her friends, Gabby, who's a director, it was her dinner party, and I was telling the story like this, and she was like, well, Billy, I was in the house that evening. And I was like, oh God, I'm sorry. And she's like, not as sorry as I was. It was awful. And I was like, see, I told you. And I was like, well, Gabby, it wasn't as hard for you as it was for me. Okay. But then he marched back in there the next night, and there's a certain kind of joy that comes from the simplicity of the storytelling, knowing that it can fail and everybody can survive. And then you get back and learn a little bit. That some of that camaraderie that I think you were speaking to, Jack, so eloquently before, comes from that kind of tribal, we got to get through this show together today, regardless, because it's not, I mean, even though I'm the only one on stage, it's the stage manager, myself, and the audience that are all collaborating on this event. So we have to all be in the room together, speaking the same language. So it really is, we're in it together, and you have to, be there for yourself.
That sounds beautiful, and I'm now even more scared.
I was going to say, you're not helping him.
But I'm still here, Mark. And also, it was that play that led to the morning show. So Jen came and saw that play, and she said, well, I just saw you play 15 characters. I bet you could play one of these guys. And I was like, yeah, I like the weirdo. And then some of the other people were like, he's too old. That's when that whole process started. But it was from that play. Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
A direct line.
Mark, do a play and you might get on the morning show.
I got to get there. Yeah.
I was just doing it in London too, which was amazing because it was about a kid from the middle of America who thinks he's British. So to watch the London houses watch our manufactured accents was pretty fun.
Jonathan, you've obviously been doing theater for years. I think The Height of the Storm was the last time I saw you on stage. I don't know if that was your last play.
It was, yeah.
It wasn't. Okay. What do you love about returning to the medium?
What do I love about it?
Yeah, the medium of theater.
I love everything that we just has been described, the sort of danger of it, the excitement of it. I love, I don't know, I just enjoy it. I love being in front of an audience. And I love being with other actors. I could never do a one-man show. I would be anathema. Who do you go out to eat with afterwards?
No, I swear I was on vocal rest the whole time. I would go home and I'd call my wife and be like, I've got about 5 minutes, honey. And then and then I'd stare at a wall for 3 hours,
Yeah.
Calm down.
No, but I do, and all the forgetting lines is part and parcel of it. That adds to the excitement. I did, I'm relying on other actors to see that. I did The Caretaker on stage, playing Davis, and it's incredibly repetitive. And between the three of us, we'd have a little signal when you realize that you'd missed a section out. I'd go, I'm going back. But there was one night, very important, that there's a whole sequence about Davis bringing a bag in with him, and he's taunted with, they don't let him have his bag, and there's a whole game goes on stage. And I forgot the bag one night, and I forgot to mention it. I forgot that I had a bag and all this kind of thing. And I was going on quite nicely, and then Peter MacDonald, who was playing Aston, said, didn't you have a bag with you? And I went, oh my God! And I scurried off stage, and I was handed a bag, and we carried on. But yeah, no, I love the theatre. I think I love doing theatre more than I like watching it.
Yeah.
It's everyone's nodding.
Oh no, I love it. I love the good, the bad, the ugly. I love all of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I find Shakespeare difficult to watch unless it's an extraordinary production.
Did you see Jack's Measure for Measure? Because it was incredible.
Jack's Measure for Measure.
Yeah.
No, that is my least favorite play in the world.
Is it
Wild
really?
Horses. I did it.
Hey, Angelo?
Jack?
Yeah, I played Angelo, and I played.
It's a terrible role. He comes on in the beginning, and then for an hour 40, he disappears. And I did it in Stratford. I would go across the road, not to the pub. I'd go across to somebody's house. I'd watch TV, and then I'd come back. And I found it, so I left the production. I didn't do it in London. I couldn't bear it. Did you like it?
I loved playing him. Yeah, he was such a shit. It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
His monologues.
I found that difficult, you see. Yeah.
I found that really easy. It's very cathartic.
Exactly. It's just him just wrestling with being a cad or not, and undermining the morality of the society. Yeah, I found super entertaining.
I love that.
I love that show. Jonathan, do you not like the show, or you just didn't like being that character?
I don't like the play very much. No.
Definitely classified as one of his problem plays for sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Duke goes on and on and on.
Oh, duh. Oh,
Yeah, he does. Yes, he does.
oh,
It was probably too supporting for Jonathan, to be honest.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%. Chip's got more lines than almost anybody in Shakespeare, I think.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that had something to do with it. It was also the first play I ever did, straight out of drama school. But it wasn't to play Angelo, it was to play Elbow,
Oh,
the policeman, the clown.
comic relief there.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was Elbow for the first half of the play, and then I was the Duke's henchman. And I remember one night it was kind of modern dress. And as the henchman, when Lucentio comes to plead with the Duke, I had to step forward and beat him over the head with my truncheon and then step back into the shadows. And this one night, I stepped back and I went like that. And the audience just went up completely. And it was just like this really cool gesture of, yeah, I hit him. And the actor then got me up against the wall in the theatre. Don't you dare ever do anything like that. And this was my first job. It was like 2 weeks in. And maybe that had something to do with my hating the play. I wanted to give up being an actor then. I thought people were horrible. How is this guy going to talk to me like this? All I did was scratch my ear just when he was about to speak. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we found Mark's first play.
I'm ready, guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
You've sold it. You've sold
All
it.
four of us.
Actually, when I'm manifesting this, when you do go on stage, what are you thinking? A classic or a new work or maybe something you've written?
I have a one-person show that's rolling around in the back of my head for a while that is very terrifying to me. But I think it will probably be that when I'm ready. Yeah.
Even after everything Billy said, you know?
Everything has been said.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's that thing. It's like, oh,
I've got a friend who wants to be in the house during the first previews.
Yeah.
shit.
He loves that experience.
Yeah. No, it's like I'm looking at a shark in the ocean. I'm just like slowly walking out towards it. I'm like, why am I walking towards the shark? What am I doing? I don't know. I guess I just want to get eaten by the shark.
Wow.
That's how I feel.
Peter, it's a manatee.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so sorry we're out of time because we could go on, but I look forward to seeing what all of you do next. And on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I just want to thank you for sharing your experiences and process and craft with our audience. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you everyone for watching.
This was lovely. Thank you, guys.